Hello, this is Connor Juras, doing his pre-calc project, where we're going to be answering some questions today. So let's go ahead and get started with question 1, where we'll be asking from a point of 47.3 meters from the base of a silo. You must find that you look up at an angle of 53 degrees to see the top of the silo. How tall is the silo? So the way we're going to set this up is on a triangle. We're going to imagine that right here there's a silo, and we're going to be solving for the height of it. So it said that we're standing here looking at a 57 or 53 degree angle, and we're 47.3 meters from the base of the silo. So we're right here looking up, trying to figure out how tall this is. So if we look at our trigonometry terms of tan, cosine, and sine, we can tell that tan is opposite over adjacent, which will actually make this easier to solve. So we're going to take the opposite of this angle, 53, and that's going to be tan 53. So we're going to put opposite first, and then the adjacent side is 47.3 meters. So we're going to put that right below. So to solve for x in this situation, we're going to multiply each side by 47.3. This will cancel out with this right here, so we can go ahead and remove that, and then it's gonna put 47.3 over here, and we're gonna multiply it by tan of 53, and that will give us our x value, and x will actually end up coming out as 62.769 meters. So that is the height of the silo. We got this by figuring out that this was the adjacent side, this was the opposite side, setting the opposite over the adjacent, and solving for tan of 53 after we multiply each side by 47.3. So let's go ahead and go to question number 2, where it will be asking us, if your cat is trapped on a tree branch that is 65 meters above the ground, and you find a ladder that is only 67 meters long, what angle will the ladder make with the ground once you set it against the tip of one of the tree branches? So the way we're going to set this up is almost similar, almost identical, to question 1. We're going to be drawing a triangle. We're going to imagine that this is the tree. This is the tree branch, It's going to be 65 meters above the ground, so it's going to be up here. Just imagine that this is a tree branch. And then our ladder, that is 6.7 meters, is going to be leaning up against it. And we're trying to get up there to save our little cat friend. I'll just draw him. Ooh. Yeah, awesome. So we want to figure out what angle this makes on the ground. So we're going to try to figure out what this angle right here, the ladder, makes on the ground is. So the easiest way to do this is we find, instead of using sine, cosine, or tangent, we take the inverse of it, and instead of finding a missing side, we're going to be finding a missing angle. So what we're going to use is we look at both of the sides we have, think of which trigonometry term we're going to use, as in like sine, cosine, and tangent, and we see that we have our opposite angle and our hypotenuse. And if we look at the SOHCAHTOA, we see that we have opposite and we have the hypotenuse. So we see those, and so that means we're going to take sine, we're going to take the inverse of sine, and we're going to put these inside and then put x on the outside. So we're going to put 60.5 over 6.7, or the opposite over hypotenuse. Set that to equal 0, and then we're going to figure out what angle this is, and that will actually come out to be 75.965 degrees, so almost 60 or 76. But yeah, so our ladder is going to end up making a 75.965 degree angle with the ground, and we can use that to know, or we can use the ladder to now go save our little cat friend. So question number 3, Halaiakalea. So very random name for a volcano on Hawaii, is 10,000 feet high, and the peak is a horizontal distance of 30,000 feet from the ocean. So the way we're going to set this one up is we're going to be setting it up almost identical to every question that we're going to be doing today. We're going to be drawing a triangle. We know that the horizontal peak from here to the ocean is 30,000, and we know the height of the volcano is 10,000 feet. So we're trying to figure out for part A what angle is going to be made right here, and similarly to the question before, number 2, we're going to be finding the inverse of tan. So we're going to be writing tan because we have both the opposite and adjacent to this angle, no hypotenuse at all. So we're going to be taking the opposite, or the inverse of this, setting it as so 10,000 over 30,000. And that's going to give us our angle. And what that'll actually come out to be is x equals 18.435. I forgot to mention this earlier, but all of my answers are rounded to the thousandths place. So it is not the most exact, but it is pretty exact as we are going to the thousandths place. So yeah, the angle of part A, or what part A is asking, the angle, it'll actually end up coming out to be 18.435 degrees. Part B, on the other hand, is asking what the hypotenuse is, what the length of the hypotenuse is, or the straight line distance. So what we're going to do to solve this is the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It's a pretty popular term or formula in math that a lot of people know. So what we're going to do is we're just going to plug them in. We're going to say that this is a, this is b, and then the hypotenuse is c. So we're going to say 30,000 to the second plus 10,000 to the second equals c squared. So what this actually ends up coming out to be is 900 million. Sorry for having to draw these zeros. Plus 100 million equals 1 billion. But we're not done yet. Since this is c squared, we're going to be having to take the square root of this, and that will come out to be 31,660, or not 60, 31,622.776 feet. Like I said before, the unit of this problem is feet because we were figuring out height of the volcano, and that's just the measurement they used. So yeah, for part A, the answer is 18.435 degrees, and for B, it is 31,622.776 feet. So let's go ahead and move on to our third question, or I mean our fourth question, sorry, where it asks that, or where it tells us that an observer that is 5.2 kilometers from a launch pad observes a missile that is ascending. At a particular time, the angle of elevation is 34 degrees. So this one is just going to be set up like this. So basically we have a missile that is being launched just right here. Should pretend it's going now. And then the launch pad is like right here. And we have this guy looking at it. Boom, boom, boom. So the way we're going to set this one up, similarly to all the other ones, is it says that he's the angle of elevation is 34 degrees. So that basically means that he is looking up at the missile. So that's going to be 34 degrees. And then it says that so it says he's 5.2 kilometers away. So that's the information the problem gave us. So the best way to figure this out is A is asking how high is the missile, and then B is asking how far the missile is from the observer. So basically B is asking what this side is, and A is asking what the height of the missile is. So I'll just go ahead and name that X, and I'll name this C. So to go ahead and figure out A, we know that we have the degree and we have the adjacent, and we're trying to figure out for the opposite. So the best trigonometry term to use here when simplifying or when finding out the missing side is going to be tangent, because we already have the adjacent. We're figuring out the opposite. So yeah, tan 34 over, that's going to be x over 5.2. We're going to multiply that by each side, so this will cancel out, and it'll end up being 5.2 tan 34 degrees. That'll end up being about 3.507 kilometers. So that's what this height will be right here, 3.507 kilometers. And now that we have that, we are trying to figure out right here, we're trying to figure out the hypotenuse, and we're going to be using Pythagorean theorem to figure this out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 5.2, square it, and then add it to 3.507 squared, and that'll equal c squared. So what that's going to do is it's going to mean 27.04 is what 5.2 squared is, and then we're going to add that to 12.299, which is what 3.507 squared is, and that'll end up being 39.9 or 0.339 kilometers. But we're not done yet, because since there's a square right here, we're gonna have to square root this, and you actually can't simplify this, so this is just the answer right here. So the hypotenuse, or c, is the square root of 39.339 kilometers. So yeah, so A, it's asking how tall it is. It's 3.507 kilometers, and then the hypotenuse, like I said right before this, is 39, or the square root of 39.339 kilometers. So let's go ahead and move on to our final question. It's asking, or it's telling us that a team is building a zip line through the skyline of Atlanta, and the team must use 125 feet of steel cable for the zip line, and have been told that the maximum angle of decline that they can use is only 42%. And they're asking what the distance of the two buildings, what's the minimum distance between them. So like every other question we've done so far, we're going to be setting this one up as a triangle. So let's just imagine the two buildings are right here. Boop, boop. And they're building a zip line, and it's going to be like a triangle. So we know that the angle of decline is going to be 42, and that the zip line length is 125 feet. What number 5 is asking us is what the minimum distances between the buildings can be. So that's going to be down here. It's asking basically what's the smallest amount of feet that the two buildings can have between each other. So the way we're going to solve this is really, really simple. Let me add that degree mark real quick. We're going to be finding the cosine of 42 degrees equals 125 over x. So cosine is it's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Sorry about that. It's going to be x over 25, x over 125. Then we're going to multiply each side by that. That's going to be 125 of cosine of 42 equals, let me just multiply these things together, and that is going to be 83.641 feet. That's the minimum distance that can be between these buildings, and that is the answer to our final question. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good rest of the day. Bye, guys.